be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited.
Horror Movie Podcast. Welcome to Blood, Gore, and Ghouls Horror Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Van Gool. Spring break is over. We're back. We've been gone for about a month, and I hope you have all been doing well and staying safe out there. I apologize for the delayed break. Initially, I meant to take, a week, maybe two, and I took a few extra just to get some more stuff done, make some more connections, but I am very excited for all the new episode content that's coming out, starting with today's brand new episode. So a few weeks ago, I had the utter delight of having a conversation with Dane Elcar, Max Woertendyke, and Dana Berger. Now, they're the creative and acting team behind the independent horror movie Brightwood. Now, if you're in the States and you haven't seen Brightwood yet, it's streaming for free on Tubi. So go check it out. For our friends in the UK, Ireland, and Australia, it's available on VOD. So regardless of where you are and you're listening to this, if you have not seen Brightwood, please pause this, hit that download button, pause it, go check out Brightwood, and then come back and listen to our conversation. There are a few spoilers later in the conversation, just as a heads up. So please go watch the movie first and come back and listen to our conversation. But yeah, without further ado, please enjoy episode 34 of Blood, Gore, and Ghouls, my conversation with Dane, Max, and Dana. This is Brightwood. Today, we're talking about Brightwood. Now, for all our listeners here in the States, it is currently streaming on Tubi. And for all our friends in the UK, Ireland, and Australia, you can now enjoy Brightwood on VOD. Now, I'm joined by some very special guests. So we have writer, director, editor, producer, and cinematographer, Dane Elcar. What's up, Dane?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah. Thank
How
you
are
for
you doing
us
today,
on.
man?
Good, great. Thank you.
I appreciate you joining us here today. With him, we have producer and playing the part of Dan in Brightwood, Mr. Max Woertendyke. Hello, Max.
Thanks so much
Thanks for being here. And last but not least, the star of the show in the role of Jen, Dana Berger. Hello, Dana. How are you?
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So Brightwood has been a big hit within our horror community, especially on TikTok. But I feel like it's a film that doesn't put itself in just one category. So it has the horror elements that we all gravitated towards. Also, it has some sci-fi and thriller elements as well. So since we are a horror movie podcast, I must ask, are you all fans of horror movies? And if so, what are some of your favorites?
Oh, I mean, I'm a fan. Yeah. I mean, I love The Shining is certainly one of my favorites. I love the Hellraiser series, kind of freaky, like that. What else? Right off the top of my head. I'm blanking. Do you have any, Max?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. I'll tell you this anecdotal stories that the way I learned to get good at learning names was, the first time I went through Friday the 13th binge. And, what I discovered watching all those films in order is that if you wanted to talk about them afterwards, you need to remember characters' names immediately because they say them once before they get the axe. So, horror has, I think, from my earliest days, has taught me the lessons of how to remember who people are. Just this week I went to go see Immaculate. I'm going to see, I know there's a lot of talk about it now, particularly on TikTok as well, about a Late Night with the Devil. I think genre is a really fun and exciting way to deal with big complex issues in a way that it's like both entertaining and exciting. And so I just think it's I think like a great fucking horror movie is a great fucking movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dana, what about you?
I'm a big pussy. So, so actually it's really not my genre. I just remember when I was a kid, my dad and my sister were watching The Exorcist, and I literally lost my shit when she started puking the green shit and I ran out of the room. There's only two horror movies that I will put myself through the pain of watching, and it's The Shining and Poltergeist. I mean, those are both so scary, but for some reason I love them, so I'll just do it.
when Dana came, we screened in our fest. We screened up at Salem Horror, and I think that weekend Dana sat through more horror movies in that weekend than she had ever seen in her entire life leading up to it.
It's a little bit of like, I'm a, what's it called? Not a poser, but that word where you're like a fake, you're faking it. Like when you're going to all these things and you're being like in a horror movie and you're like, yeah, horror, absolutely. I know everything about this, when you're like, I don't know pretty much anything, but.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that might add to the performance though. If you're not a fan of horror and you're in a horror movie, you have that that horror feel already.
Oh yeah. Get me the fuck out of here.
So what made you all want to make movies and get into the industry?
Oh, I mean, I've been wanting to make movies. We've been wanting to make a feature for a very long time. I've been writing screenplays and scripts and working on short films for as long as I can remember. So this has been a journey, a longer journey than expected. But one of our, one of the life goals was like, let's get a feature made.
Both Dane and I have known each other for a long time. Dane and I met working one of the last video stores in New York City. And at the time, I guess, Dane, you were still acting. We were like, I was an actor. I'm still an actor, obviously. And we used to hold these like acting workshops in the basement of where we lived.
And I would write stuff and like have them act it out. This was years ago.
Yeah. And it was a really long time ago. And I think, since then we've sort of, Dane and I have collaborated on many things in the past, and then Dana and I met doing a play. And, I think the thing that's so cool about film is it's a truly collaborative art form. Having come up as an actor and having moved into doing a lot more producing over the past couple of years, one of the things I find so satisfying is it's like getting in there with really talented, smart, creative people and solving problems together. And like the thing that's amazing about a film, I love the theater. I grew up in the theater, but when the theater's done, it's gone, and you never get to share it. You never get to look back. You can only learn in the moment. And that's really cool. But what's amazing about a film is, we shot this in May of 21 and we're here in March of 24, having just released in the UK, Ireland, and Australia. So it's been a really long journey, and I will only speak for myself, but I think certainly Dane, you would definitely agree. Like what we know now compared to what we knew when we began this process is night and day. I mean, it's been such a cool opportunity to like grapple with what it means to make a movie, both creatively, commercially, logistically, the whole nine.
Absolutely. Yeah. And from my standpoint, I'm just a lover of movies, particularly horror movies. I don't know so much of the ins and outs or what goes on behind the scenes. So it's always very fascinating to me to speak to people in the industry and who actually make movies and, see the kind of the details behind it. So it's always very fascinating. So Dane, this is your first full length. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And so I was looking at your filmography on IMDb, and one stuck out to me called The Pond.
Oh yeah.
So I checked it out on YouTube, and I found out that it was kind of the first iteration of Brightwood.
Yeah, that's.
I'm sorry.
No, that's right. That's right. That back in 2017, I came up with this kind of crazy idea of having a guy get stuck at a pond going around in circles, and I filmed it. And then as I was filming that is when I kind of came up with the idea of throwing a couple into that situation. And that kind of led to the pond. But did you have another question on top of that? Sorry.
I was just going to say, what kind of, where did you get the idea or the inspiration for the story?
Originally, I thought of it kind of like a Twilight Zone. It was just, I had this vision of someone getting stuck going around in circles. And I used to take my daughter on these jogs around a local pond. And I really kind of started to kind of fall in love with the location. And I thought to myself, wow, if I was going to make this short film, this would be a great place to make it. And so I went out, I did like a 12-page treatment. I went out and just really low budget with a friend of mine, we filmed that short. And as I said, as I was making that, I was kind of the idea of having a couple kind of stuck together right on the verge of a divorce, and kind of thrust them in this kind of nightmare scenario. That there's a possibility there for kind of like a metaphor on relationships and going around in circles and in and out of toxicity. But then I kind of forgot about it. And I think every once in a while I'd bring it up to Max, like, hey, Max, that, maybe we feature length version of the Pawn. And I'm pretty sure Max was like, yeah, okay, yeah. Sure. All right. Yeah.
I always knew it was genius. We were just waiting.
I was like, how about that Pawn script? Yeah. Okay. All right. Right. So that's really where the idea came from. And then that percolated for years until it kind of came to a point later. Max and I had been working on something else that due to the pandemic kind of fell through. Mm-hmm. And then this idea, the drive to really make a film was so strong. We really wanted to get something going. And so this idea was kind of like the perfect idea to kind of focus on during that time, and to kind of use all the limitations from the pandemic as kind of artistic obstructions to, that we're only going to have two people, we're only going to have one location, and how can we keep ratcheting up the suspense and the comedy, and this kind of all folded, and then or came together, and I ended up writing the script and showing it to Max. And
yeah, I mean, one of the things, as Dane alluded to, he and I had been working on another project for some time, and right before the pandemic hit, we thought we were going to get to make it. Mm-hmm. We thought we'd finally found like some EPs and found the financing for it, and we were like, holy fucking shit, we're going to get to make this movie. And I think we sort of had that eureka moment on like, March 3rd. 2020 or whatever. And so when that fell through, it was pretty devastating. And, I think all of us felt like a creative need to make something, to like have some control, to like put something out. And, we also wanted to make sure that we made something that we could make without permission. We were like, we're going to make a film that, we don't need, we're not going to get stuck in development hell on, it's like, we have the resources, we have the team, we have the talent. What are the pieces that we can get together and we can make ourselves, so that, we're not sitting around waiting for someone else to tell us like, okay, guys, green light, let's go. We said, fuck that. We're not going to wait. We're going to move. And that's sort of how it happened. And, and it was, not only was it cool, but it was, I can say it was like one of the most fun times in my adult life. I mean, I had so much fun shooting in the woods with these guys. And in a funny way, it's the great luxury of shooting a project like this, that it was a passion project, that was a small project. It was really, sometimes working on a bigger film like isn't as much fun. And it was just amazing to make something with like people you really love and respect fully. I
also think that, to piggyback on what you said, like our set was really, really small. I mean, how many people was it? 5? Including us? Yeah. So 5, like in addition to the 3 of us, we just had an AD who was amazing and a sound guy who was amazing. And that's probably like, I mean, that is nothing for a set. But I think that some of the feedback we've gotten about the film is how it feels very real. And I think that also the film feels claustrophobic and intimate and very contained. And I think that to some degree, that's because of how small the crew was and how small it was. It's just like, it makes everything very personal and very intimate in a way that I do think comes through in the final product.
If you're going to go and shoot in the woods for 2 weeks, then like you better know that the people who you're going with have your back.
Yeah,
like, better know that you can trust them.
Yeah,
that's how a lot of other, that's how another bad horror movie could start.
That's right.
Going out there with a bunch of people you don't trust, and I think that was like just so important to the process and to the final film.
Yeah, from like an outsider perspective, just watching it, I could tell that it was very, very tight knit, very like there was a lot of passion and love put into this.
Well, when I finally sent the script to Max and kind of we had a conversation, and it was kind of like, okay, let's focus on this. Then the wheels started turning, kind of like, how are we going to do it? What do we need? And so Max suggested Dana actually very early on, because we needed someone to go out being willing to kind of do this, to literally go in the woods with like 4 guys, and to kind of do this.
No other women.
Yeah. So I got on a call with Dana. You know, it was amazing. I felt Dana really connected and knew the part, and we had a great conversation. So then it was a kind of, again, how are we going to go about getting this made? And so I kind of went on 2 trajectories. One was I brought Max and Dana on early to kind of help with the script. As we would kind of do these online Zoom rehearsals, and then I would go and rewrite. So they were constantly reading and talking about the part, and in a way sort of workshopping and distilling down the dialogue of the script. The other trajectory that I was going on was teaching myself cinematography, teaching myself how to be a Steadicam operator, lighting, and you know, essentially figuring out how to make a movie with this small, limited group of people. Mm-hmm. Max, of course, came on as a producer, and the planning stages were, you know, it was pretty intense. I mean, we brought everything down. Max will add to it, down to like the time it would take for a lens change.
We scheduled literally every moment of every day. You know, we knew there was we didn't have money to be able to throw at the problem. And so, you know, all we had was time, and even that was pretty limited. So we needed to be really smart about how we used it. Yeah. I mean, literally Dana and I spent hours and hours going through each, you know, the shot list for every day. Yeah. We would schedule, okay, great. It takes, you know, 3 minutes to go from 35 to a 50. Mm-hmm. It takes, you know, 6 minutes to go from this lens to this lens, because we have to remove, you know, and then of course we got out there. Dane was his own camera operator as well. You know, we got out there, and of course Dane, you know, improv, you know, we figured out what we needed to do. It wasn't like, you know, but we were so well prepared at that time. I always laugh, you know, Dane, every time you see us running in the movie, mm-hmm. Dane's running backwards in front of us. And, you know, there was definitely a couple of times where like Dana and I were like, oh, this fucking, you know, sometimes actors get like this, you know, it's like, oh, this fucking director. And we were like, let's run a little bit faster, because chase us with the camera. So we were like, all right, we're just going to step it up half a notch more, give Dana's workout. I think Dana was the only person though. I mean, Dane runs, I don't run. Dana, I think, trained for the event.
I was a little nervous that we were going to be, it felt like it was going to be physical. Like, we were going to be walking and running around a pond for 12 days. And so I was just like, I got to survive this. So like, yes, I like started running and stuff. And then I got to set, and Dane was like, I can't keep up. And so I was like basically trotting the whole time. And I was like, oh, I didn't need to fucking train for this at all.
There are some very early takes during the first day, and I'm sure Dane can speak more about this, where Dana would like really run. Mm-hmm. And there was a number of takes that I think were basically unusable, because you would just hear underneath it
her heartbeat.
And we were like, you know, it was like that Laurence Olivier thing, like, darling, it's called acting.
All right, whatever.
Yeah, the first thing that kind of caught my eye when I started watching the movie was the dialogue and the kind of on-screen chemistry and connection between both of you, Max and Dana. And you know, with movies, with couples and married people and whatnot, it's always kind of a movie version of things. And this one was like, to me at least, I was like, this feels real. It feels like a real couple going through some shit. And both of your performances I absolutely loved. I gotta say that. Because you both just sold it. Like, Max is the kind of like, yeah, you did some shit you shouldn't have done, but like, you're kind of still like that lovable guy. And then Dana, like, just selling the, yeah, you're pissed off. And maybe a little extreme at some points, but like, you completely understand where you're coming from. So I love that dynamic of it. And that was even before we got into like the what the fuck is going on of the movie. So I just wanted to give you both props for that. That I love those characters right off the bat.
Thank you. Dana and I met doing a play where we also played a couple in crisis.
Okay.
And I'll just say, you know, Dana's one of my favorite actors to work with. It's like she's just very alive and in the moment. And so when you get into a scene with her, it can be surprising. And so even though we were so prepared, when we got on set, we got to really play those scenes moment by moment by moment by moment. And as an actor, that's just like the kind of most exciting part of it. And again, this goes back to like the trusting thing, like because I trusted Dana and Dana trusts me, I think we felt really free to genuinely go after one another as the characters. We weren't worried about, oh, is this person going to think I'm weird, or is this person going to think I'm too intense? It was like, no, we're here for it, and so it was really fun. Dana's definitely one of my favorite work wives in the world.
Oh, not the favorite, excuse me.
No, no one's gonna be listening to this podcast, Dana. I have to.
Well, on the other side of that, it was so great to work with these two and bring them on early and kind of start the process, because they brought so much to the characters. And I knew Max and I kind of talked early on, I was going to be so focused on kind of like the filming aspect of it, that these two needed to kind of be the actor camp. They were going to have to work together while I was like working on the camera and setting stuff up. And so having those meetings and really working on the script beforehand really allowed us to have this great freedom that we discovered once we were on set, which was fantastic. They could kind of do those things. They could work on it, and they were so the characters were so much a part of them that I could kind of let them do that, and then it really was about me capturing those moments while I was filming them, and so it felt very alive, and I think that does come off in the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think also, sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, you're good.
Max and I are both, first of all, Max is also one of my absolute favorite people to work with in the world. But I think also both of us, and this is part of why I love working with Max, we're really not sensitive actors. We kind of are just like, let's just try things, let's just play. And I mean, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, Max, but like, I don't really need a lot of like time alone before the shot starts and things like that. Like, I feel I'm very much like I act on instinct and stuff. And so I just love working with Max because it's very playful, and it's sort of like not serious in a way that can make personalities, like when you're not shooting, a little bit awkward. Do you know what I mean? Am I saying this right, Max? So I think that was
there was no trailers that you could hide in from.
There's no like you have to kind of just be willing to rough it and like not be sensitive and not have a big ego and all that kind of stuff. And so for this project especially, I just loved working with Max because he's really down to clown.
There's also like, I think, and Ian, I think you probably felt this, the film has, and Dane, you can certainly speak more about this, but a sort of very dark humor to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's not super self-serious. I mean, one of the things that was so exciting, when Dane brought the script is like, Jen and Dan are not special people. They're not, physicists or ex-cops, or like, they have no skills that qualify them for this experience more than anyone else. They're like latte drinking basic bitches in the woods. And, there's something so absurd about that scenario. And Dane, I think very wisely, like created this very sort of thread of dark humor throughout the film. And so, it was also important to be able to find those moments of levity. I think, it's interesting. I think some audiences feel like confused at first by that. They're like, is it okay to laugh? I loved watching the film at festivals because in these audiences, you could feel, when someone would laugh, sometimes it would take a little while for the rest of the crowd to kind of be like, oh, okay, it's cool. It's all right. Like we can enjoy this on that level as well, as, hopefully feeling that dread and that terror and also just sort of like the unease and maybe the disgust towards the end of the film that comes with it. But that there is also this sense of humor. And so finding a team that could find the places for that to arise naturally felt really, really important.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say there's a lot of different emotions to this movie. Like you start with the kind of I'd say more comedic, like getting to know the characters. My favorite line from the movie is Dana, when you and Max are talking about the party from the night before, and he was hitting on your coworker, and you say she's 56 years old. I lost it at that part. And then just Max, your reaction then to hearing that she has kids in their 20s. Like, oh, okay.
Really?
But that's exactly what I wanted it to be. I wanted to communicate some sense of like, oh wow, she's even better.
Like there's more options. All right.
That's stupid.
Yeah. But no, I love that. Like I said, I love the banter and the conversations that you guys have in the movie. It just works really well and it feels really real. And I've known people in real life who act that way. Obviously different scenarios, but like, you know, the same kind of, you know, they just act that way. So yeah, I really appreciated the little comedic lines and things in the movie. And then, you know, we'll get like midway through and there's kind of that confusion, not sure exactly what's going on. And then by the end, yeah, it's just like this brutal, just fight for survival. So what was like,
wait, sorry. You want to know randomly what's like my favorite one of my
absolutely.
Movie? Guys, you're going to be like, what? I think the line, where is Bun Drive? It's so funny, but I know I'm the only one that thinks
it's just funny because I literally tried to get Dane to cut it out of the edit a half a dozen times, and he was I think it's funny, and I was like, great. I mean, you win, obviously, always.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
All right,
it's a great line, Dana.
I just think it's so fucking irrelevant to like what's like the stakes and what's happening in this scene, and like the fact that she takes that moment to be like, what the fuck are you talking about right now? It's just, I don't know. I think it's funny. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, it is. Yeah, that, like I said, the whole banter, that whole like first half before we kind of get into things. There's a lot of really good lines and hilarious parts in there. But I was gonna say, once we kind of get into like the third act and once shit starts getting real, what was it like kind of getting into that mindset of like once things get bloodier and gorier and we kind of somewhat get a more of a explanation question mark as far as what's going on. So how was it acting in those parts and kind of acting with yourselves but not?
I mean, I think Dane did a really good job with all the like, I don't know if you want to call them props or what, all the gross shit. And like having to go into that dark ass tent with those skeleton remains. Honestly, you don't have to act much because it does feel disgusting and creepy as hell. So I think that like that's sort of something that's fun about film versus theater is like, especially on stage, things you really do have to create the circumstances for yourself. But a lot of the times when you're filming, like you're really filming in the woods or you're really filming in a hospital. And so the things do feel a little bit realer and you don't have to maybe work as hard to do the mental jumps for yourself.
Also, you know, we didn't shoot in order, but I think roughly we did make an effort to schedule to shoot the film in as much as we could, roughly chronological order, because just for Dana and I, you know, keeping track of what we were doing and which version, spoiler alert, but which version of Jen and Dan we were, you know, just required some kind of thinking and some kind of plotting ahead so that we could sort of drop in and out of those characters. And so I'll also say, I think, you know, by the time we sort of reached the latter half of the film, we had been shooting for a couple of days. It's not like we jumped into that on day one. And so I think that also sort of felt like imagining what it would be like to lose your partner out there, for instance. You know, it's an easy imaginative jump because you've just been out there with literally your you know, creative partners for a week, and you think, okay, what would it be like if they were murdered and I couldn't get out? And you know, that's like a very easy what if question. Like as actors, like that what if is really valuable. And so you just ask yourself that and you think, oh shit, okay, that's what this experience is. You know, and you just kind of work off of that.
Awesome. Yeah, there will be a spoiler alert at the beginning of the episode, so no worries. But yeah, overall, I think it's a brilliant film. I love that it's kind of left to the audience to interpret what's going on. So Dane, do you want to give any insight? Is it hell? Is it purgatory? Is it wrong place at the wrong time in a time loop?
You know what? I don't think that for me to have like any sort of answer is so kind of arbitrary in some ways, because I really feel like the film itself is kind of the journey of the relationship, you know, and how that is affected by this kind of time loop scenario, and how we as audience members, you know, feel about that. It's kind of this strange thing where even though we're not stuck in a time loop, we all seem to know what it's like to be stuck in time, because we're stuck in this time.
Right.
It's just not going around over and over again in a loop. So I feel like with it kind of this whole scenario allowed me to look at this couple and this relationship and to kind of see it from a different angle, not from a realistic angle, from kind of an absurd angle or a horrific angle, but it allowed me to tell this story of this couple and what they're going through, and that was always the focus of the film, I feel. So giving an answer, you know, it was Space Kittens. They did it.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love when it kind of leaves it ambiguous like that. It doesn't give you a solid explanation. So yeah, just the whole movie, the whole experience from watching it was just a really fun one.
I think it was important for us to land it. Like we wanted to get like that ending was always the first thing that ever came to my, you know, it came to me. So to land that ending was very important. However, does it answer all the technical things? No.
Right.
We're left with where they are physically and emotionally in that state. And that was how I always wanted to land that ending. So yeah.
And I think that's like, you know, if we found ourselves in a time loop, you know, it's nice to imagine that you'd be able to figure it out.
Right.
But the reality is that most of us would just be fucking stuck in the time loop, living it over with and not being able to do anything about it. Like that's human reality to me. And I think, you know, I loved that the film defied an easy answer, that like this, because to me the suggestion is that there may not be any way out. Like all there is to live through it again and again and figure out how to survive that life better, which is, you know, what they do. They figure out how to come together, work together, and grow old together. You know, I mean, that's what happens in a funny way. It's like sort of romantic if you have the stomach for it. And you know, I loved that about it as well.
Yeah, I consider it a great achievement that I've gotten, that the ending gets both like, oh, and then also, ah. You know?
Someone at one of our early festival runs came up to Dane afterwards and was like, "This is my favorite new romantic comedy." We were like, "You're twisted," but you know.
Yeah, right. So what's next for everyone? Brightwood 2?
That's right. We're going back.
Well, you do have an idea.
Brightwooder.
Yeah.
Brightwooder. No, Dane and I are working on his next film. That's we're in development on right now. It's another feature that I think is a fucking killer thriller. And, you know, we're working on all like the shitty hard parts of getting a movie up and running, which is like finding the money and getting the people attached and doing all that stuff. And then in a completely different non-horror world, I just directed a short documentary about this amazing woman named Magda Salvesen. I know it's a 79-year-old widow to an abstract American painter. For like something completely different. And then Dana and I are perpetually looking for our opportunity to play incestuous cannibal siblings.
They don't have to be cannibal. They just
doesn't have to be cannibal. Yeah, just incestuous murder siblings.
Yeah.
We think we'd have a real good time doing that. So if anyone's got that story and that budget, call us, please.
Yeah, right. I'd watch it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll wrap it up here. I don't want to take too much of your time here out of your day.
You know, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I realized I didn't really answer your very first question about like what my favorite horror movie is.
Yeah.
So I just realized I should say it. Like, I think if I had to put it, I would actually call it Funny Games for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
The original.
Yeah.
The
Right.
original. I find it terrifying.
Michael Haneke. That is,
Yeah. And similarly, it's like a couple, who are really stuck in a situation they don't have control over. But I just find that movie.
We talked about the violence in that movie too, about how swift and quick it is, and how we kind of wanted to, even though it's much different kind of in the film, but just that idea of just violence being so fast. And in that film, it's a great example of just the terror of just it being over.
Yeah.
As soon
And
as
you're stuck with the emotional experience of like what the horror and the violence does to the people in the story.
Yeah.
So whatever.
I love that film. Good.
Yeah, no, that's a good one for sure. One last horror question here. So if you could be a part of any horror franchise, which one would it be?
I mean, for me, I love one of the reasons why I love horror is I actually went through a phase, like a makeup phase. I love the gore and the scars and the blood, and every place I've ever lived, I have some pint of blood, fake blood, someplace. It's weird, but I always was fascinated with the makeup, and so that's one of the reasons why, like that first Hellraiser film, just that intensity. And I remember watching documentaries of it back in the day, the makeup, and I think one time for Halloween I kind of like made my own pinhead thing. So that's what I would do.
I've aged out of Scream, unfortunately. Like, I would have to play like a teacher or someone who like gets like kind of dispatched early, and that doesn't sound as much fun as it would have like, some time ago. It's really, I don't know. It's really hard because like so many of the franchises are now like so deep into the franchise, we're like, I'm like 10, 11, 12. And that's cool. And that's great. But I mean, what I would really love to be is part of a horror franchise that I don't know exists yet, that is like,
there you go,
just a film in, that is just one or two films in, and you feel like, okay, cool. Here's a new story to sort of really expand upon and get involved with. That would be, I think, my dream.
For sure. Say, as far as Scream, I mean, at this point, you could just be like Sydney's teacher from 20 years ago, and you have a vendetta. And now
I mean, that's right. There's like a fun utilitarian part to play, but it's not the same kind of
right.
It wouldn't be the same kind of meaty shit to get into.
Yeah.
It would be cool as hell just to do it because it's like, cool, I got a ghost face mask on my wall or whatever, but
right.
Yeah.
Dana,
which favorite horror franchise do you want to be?
I don't even know the choices. Like, that's what I like. I'm the wrong person to ask about this.
I would put Dana in Halloween.
What
about any movie franchise outside of horror?
Any movie franchise? I don't like what. I'm like bad at these. This is not like what are, I don't know, guys, help me out. Like what are movie? I would love, this is not a franchise.
Would you like to be a superhero?
No.
Okay.
I would love to be in like one of Christopher Guest's movies.
Oh, yeah.
Like
that's brilliant.
For Guffman, Best in Show, all that stuff. Like, let's go with that.
You want to be in the Christopher Guest?
So Christopher Guest, if you're listening,
universe.
Please write please write an incestuous murder twins comedy.
I don't think
Dana and I.
But like anything like I can be an accountant in his movie. Like he just has such amazing weird characters and I love it.
No, it's fantastic. But yeah, no, we'll wrap it up here. But again, I just want to thank you all for joining Max, Dane, and Dana. This has been a very fun conversation here, and I appreciate very much you taking time out of your day to hang out with me for a little bit.
Thank you so much for having us on.
It's super awesome, and you rock. So
thank you. But yeah, be sure to keep me updated on your upcoming work, and we'll be here to help spread the word to the masses.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Absolutely. But yeah, thanks again. Everyone have a great day.
Bye.
I hope you all enjoyed this episode. It was such a blast and a great experience getting to chat with Dane, Max, and Dana. and I'm hoping to have them all back, whether it be separately or all together again in the future. So if you have not checked out Brightwood, please do so. It's such a unique and original film. It's low budget, it's independent, it's got some blood and gore, and it was made with passion and love, and that's what we're all about here. So again, if you're in the US, you can watch it on Tubi, and outside of the States, check it out on VOD. But once again, I want to thank Dane, Max, and Dana from the bottom of my heart for being so fucking cool and making that interview experience one that I'll always remember. So in closing, check us out on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Discord, etc. All the links will be in the show notes. I'll also link the Brightwood movie info as well. And give us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening to this from. I greatly appreciate it. But that'll do it for another episode of Blood, Gore, and Ghouls Horror Movie Podcast. I've been your host, Ian Van Gogh. Thank you all for listening. I'll see you guys next week. And please, stay safe out there.
Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you.
There you go. That's it.